Welcome to this impactful webinar by the Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria (ISPON). Powered by System Stride Global. An innovative idea proposed by Dr. Nnamdi Iladuba, the National President, ISPON. The topic of the webinar: Intrigues and Realities of COVID-19, New Challenges for HSE Management in the Workplace.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this session with the Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria. My name is Patrick Olayinka, and we'll be starting this session now, as we are all here on schedule. I want to thank you for your timeliness. And so, just before we start, we have a few instructions for us to make this session smooth and a good one for all of us. Our host today is the National President of the
This evening you go and bab that thing.
for today. So as I said, we'll be having a few instructions for us as participants so that we can have a discussion together. Number one, if you are joining this section today, you're already here. We encourage you to please mute your audio so that we can minimize interference from the background. Please mute your audio. There is an icon there, the audio icon. Please click on it and make sure that it's cross on it to show us that you are not speaking to us immediately. So we'll only be listening to the speaker for now. At the question and answer section, you'll be given opportunity to speak. But for this time, please mute your audio. Then, secondly, because of traffic, we also want you to kindly remove your videos. So you need to listen only to the audio session. The speakers will be coming up with their videos anytime they need to speak. But all the participants, please kindly go give us your videos so that the session can be smooth for us and we can reduce the traffic here. If you have any questions in the course of this discussion, even as any speaker is talking, please use the chat area, type your questions there. We have people monitoring this area to pick your questions, take note of all of them. I will promise you not to be left untouched. At the end of the discussion, a few persons will be given opportunity to speak. But the rest assured, your feedback are important. We want to also let you know that there are a lot of people here who will not be able to take everybody's question. But as much as we can take before the session is over, we'll take them, and the follow-up questions and answer will come after this session through your email addresses. So I want to thank you for coming, and I wish you a wonderful time with the Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria. So at this time, I will welcome the President of the Institute, Dr. Nnamdi Iladuba, to please address us, and then to officially start the session. Good day, everyone. You're welcome. Thank you very much. Please, we'll take it up immediately. Here with me at the studio, and a colleague that is Mr. Luca and Mrs. Messi. We will be handling the discussion together from this time. So I want to talk about the Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria. The Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria ISPON was founded in 1980 as Nigerian Society of Safety Professionals, NSSP, was later renamed the Nigerian Institute of Safety Professionals, NISP, and then the response to the Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria, and became chartered with the core mandate of regulating the training and practice of safety management in Nigeria, following the signing into law and official gazette of the Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria, ISPON Act 2014, Act number 2. The objects of the estimate are as follows. Number one is to organize and provide professional training in the area of safety management. In collaboration with other government agencies, set standards of practice and determine the knowledge and skills to be acquired by the person seeking to register and practice as safety personnel and to improve on such standards from time to time. C. Who also see as may be necessary to promote the advancement of safety for people in both the public and private sectors of the economy. And D. To establish and maintain lists of persons registered as safety professionals in Nigeria and the public from time to time those so registered. E. To perform such other functions as may be necessary for the advancement of the institute and the safety management profession. And then, and in collaboration with relevant agencies of government, regulate the practice of safety management in Nigeria. A person who is registered by ISPON by holds himself or herself out as a safety functional is being guilty of an offense. A person who, for the purpose of procuring registration as a safety functional A, may false claim as to his or her qualifications or experiences, or make false entry or willfully outside the register is guilty of an offense. A person who commits an offense under the act of ISPON is liable of conviction to a fine not exceeding 100,000 naira or imprisonment for a time not exceeding 6 months. D. A fine of not more than 500,000 naira for a corporate organization. ISPON contact is located at number 6 Ìkọ̀tún Road, Lagos, and website is www.ispon.gov.ng. Please note very well because we have seen many people visiting www.isponnigeria.org. That is not our website. That website has been decided and required that people are using it now to do people. So please take note of the addresses that we are giving to you. In case you want to write us, want to communicate with us, use info@ispon.gov as a gov.ng. The ISPON president address, email address is present at ispon.gov.ng. And my phone number is written as you are seeing. Okay? Number 3 is the name of the registrar, the performer authority. His phone number is as written. The ISPON office coordinator, that level 9 coordinator, is Engineer PC Iwago. The phone number is as written on the screen. Representing the ISPON local state as the coordinator is Mr. Olaho Ogunmeso. Mr. Ogunmeso is in UK, but somebody is local state in the country representing him, and that person is Mrs. Bolajoko. The phone number is written there for you. Our office is coordinated by Mrs. Ajayi Ronke. The number is written. Bayelsa State coordinator is Dr. Riman Obele. The number is written. Our Southern State coordinator is Mr. Jimmy Peter. The number is also written.
Coordinator is Dr. Ogo Ufia. Dr. Ogo's number is written there. Enugu coordinator is Francis Iwu. The number is written. Anambra office is Chief Achilike Emmanuel. Our ISPON office in Imo State is coordinated by Dr. Martins Dike. The number is written. And the Abuja office, the FCT, is coordinated by Builder Julius Oko. The number is also written. In case you want to contact the above mentioned individuals for one reason or the other, you can call them. When you call them, you ask them whatever you need to know from them, and they will direct you appropriately. We have a brief profile of our speakers for the day. The people who know it. I don't know it, but we know people who know it, and we have brought them for you. In the first person is Dr. Eskak Intia. Dr. Intia is an occupational health practitioner with over 2 decades of medical practice in the oil and gas industry and in the not-for-profit and public health sectors. Dr. Intia is the regional occupational health manager as well as the regional lead for human performance and care. He is also the public relations officer of the Society of Occupational and Environmental Health Physicians of Nigeria, that is SOFON. Engineer Meka Ilebunam is the next speaker. Engineer Meka Ilebunam is a chartered fellow of the Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria. He has a B.Ing, M.Ing, Petroleum and Gas Engineering. He also has international diploma in occupational safety and health. He also has MSc in process safety and loss prevention. Engineer Meka is a HSC management system expert. He is a versatile, resourceful, performance-oriented, and a multidimensional professional with over 22 solid years in the oil and gas industry, encompassing project management, asset integrity, process safety and loss prevention, human resources assessment and recruitment, and HSC management, and so on and so forth. It's loaded. If we begin to list them here, we will not finish reading the profile in the next 2 or 3 hours. Other of his part of his CVs are also listed there for you. Engineer Meka, you are welcome. Dr. Intia, you are welcome. What of Dr. Nadine? Okay, the next person is Engineer Dr. Karachi Nadede. Dr. Karachi Nadede is a logistics agency superintendent with Total Exploration and Production Nigeria Limited, and the Total Professors Associate with the Center for Occupational Health and Safety, University of Port Harcourt. He holds a PhD in Safety Sciences from Indiana University of Pennsylvania, MSc in Occupational Health and Environmental Health and Safety Management from University of Portsmouth. He also has MSc in Safety Engineering from Madison University, Mississippi. He also has MSc in Strategic Planning from Heriot-Watt University and a B in Electrical Electronics from University of Port Harcourt. Dr. Karachi is also a certified risk manager, a certified safety professional, a chartered member of Institution of Occupational Safety and Health, and a professional member of American Society of Safety Professionals. He has over 20 years HSC industry experience and has reviewed several ASSP safety books. Okay. Dr. Nnamdi Yoruba is here, the moderator of the webinar. Dr. Yoruba is a life member of ISPON, a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Industrial Security, a member of the Institution of Occupational Safety and Health, a member of American Society for Safety Professionals, a member of the International Institute of Risk and Safety Management, and of course, a member of American Society for Industrial Security Assist International. Dr. Yoruba holds a PhD in Occupational Health and Safety, he has PhD in Security Management. He also has MSc in Occupational Health and Safety, MSc in Business Administration, and BSc in Business Administration. He is American Society for Industrial Security Board Certified Protection Professional, CPP, a Fiscal Security Professional, PSP, Professional Certified Investigator, PCI, and Certified Protection Officer, CPO. He's also a Certified Security Consultant, a Certified Safety Professional, and a Certified Security Specialist. Dr. Yoruba is the current National President and Chairman of the Board of the Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria. You are welcome once again on board this webinar, which we entitled The Entries and Realities of COVID-19, New Challenges for HSC Management in the Workplace, Public Health, Behavioral Safety, and HSC Management System Perspectives. You are welcome. Mode of presentation will be employing thought leadership methodology. That's where speakers will present their papers in turns, and the duration of each is 15 minutes per speaker. After that, after the three of them must have spoken in turns of 15 minutes each, the House will turn itself into panel discussion, focusing on the presentation, that is the participants' questions, comments, and suggestions will be welcome. You can ask open questions to a general question. You can also ask specific questions to a specific speaker. You can as well type your questions. We will see it and we direct it appropriately. At the end of the exercise, the attendees will be awarded attendance certificates. Please, you can also, after the lectures, contact us at the above addresses we gave to you before. You can contact me on my phone. You can also contact the speakers in case you have questions that they need to, to give you solution to. You are welcome, everybody. Please sit back and enjoy yourselves. You have been told to mute your cameras and to raise up your hand when you have a question to ask, so that we will avoid too much flow of individuals and that may distract us as we go on. Thank you very much. Okay, we want to have Dr. Intia on board. Dr. Intia, you can come on board to present your paper. Hello. Hello.
Right. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. You needed to unmute me first. Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you,
And
Doctor.
this is indeed, it's good to see you, Doc. Good to see you. It's been a while. Oh,
Thank you. It's been a while.
So, yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So, to my mind, when I look at the context of the conversation that I would like to stimulate in this conversation, it is one that we are facing a pandemic. We are in unprecedented times. There's been no one alive who has been alive or who has experienced what we are going through at the moment. So everyone has to have a learner mindset, or you cannot survive this period. As occupational safety and health professionals, for me, the context of our work, our very work, is being challenged, exponentially in these times. The very concept of risk management has been turned on its head. What we are being forced to do today is to mitigate against a risk that is, to a significant extent, is poorly understood, and one for which we continue to learn every day. The protocols that guide and the guidelines for managing coronavirus, as it were, continue to mutate week on week. As doctors, even I sometimes am embarrassed by the fact that something I have said so strongly 3-4 weeks ago, I need to come before my audience and refute it, that the science has changed right from beneath me. And that, for me, means that we have to have a slightly different mindset to how we manage risk. And with that, I'm going to segue into what I would spend maybe 5-7 minutes on, discussing risk management in the COVID-19 climate. What does it mean for us as occupational safety and health professionals? The first bit of it is that we have introduced a hazard that perhaps we have never before considered on this scale and on this level. Even when I led the group in my own organization to manage the Ebola crisis, I don't think that we were forced into the corners we've been forced to by the coronavirus pandemic. And there are two very basic reasons for it. Ebola doesn't hide. Ebola is ruthless. So because Ebola is ruthless and it kills fatality rate is quite high, Ebola will continue to eat away at anything in front of it until it dies out. And it burns out because only the sick can transmit Ebola. The significant difference between Ebola and the coronavirus is that the coronavirus hides. The coronavirus, in 70 to 80%, particularly in Black Africa, of folks, is asymptomatic. People have this disease and are not even aware of it. Now, WHO has come up with a revision of their projections and of their guidelines to state that asymptomatics rarely transmit the virus. I'm sorry, the model of spread of this virus makes me say I disagree. Until they define what rare means, I cannot agree with that assertion. Because if asymptomatics were unable to transmit, it would not have spread this far, this fast. And even if that rare is 8%, as some studies say, or 10%, as some studies say, or 3%, as some studies say, it is still significant enough to give us the amount of propagation that we are seeing at the speed and the pattern that we are seeing it. I come back to the Nigerian situation. Even as we cross the 25,000 mark and go into the late 20s in terms of numbers of cumulative infections, and that we continue to have our positive test to total test ratio at something like 18 to 20%, I say that in Nigeria, our numbers are severely underestimated. If our positive test to total test ratio in Nigeria is about 18-20%, is correct, is what we have, and that's what they have data, it means that taken are positive. Our model for testing in Nigeria is the high risk model. We test people who are symptomatic, we test people who have had contact. We're not doing community testing in Nigeria because we simply cannot afford to. The issue with that is if you have 20%-ish kind of ratios, the actual prevalence in society, then you must divide by something like 15 to 20 and get something like 1 to 1.5% of the population infected. What that means is that instead of 25,000 people on our books, we should have something like maybe 1 million or 1.5 million or 2 million. And for me, that looks more likely to be the kind of numbers of people who have cumulatively had this infection since February 28th. Why I'm saying this is that against the backdrop of that degree of community transmission and prevalence in society, it says that 1 in 20 people generally have carried the virus before or are carrying the virus. So if I have 100 workers assembled, given even allowance for the healthy worker effect, 1 in those 20 workers would either have had the virus before or is carrying the virus. And the tragedy is that the person may not be aware at all. So when I look at risk management from a risk management perspective, I say it must mean that we must mitigate for the fact that is almost reality or guaranteed reality that on any site that you oversee as a safety and occupational safety and health professional, you must assume that that site has someone with that infection. And if you have that mindset, it changes the way you act, react, or mitigate. So if I look at the bow tie then, I then ask myself, what is my top event? Is my top event someone becoming infected? I will lose that battle. If my top event then is that, do I say, how do I prevent someone on that site from becoming ill? Then I may have a chance. How do I prevent illnesses from coronavirus on my site? Leading to deterioration of and the probability and the severity of the hazard, and then going on to design mitigations based on that risk. The risk of developing, the prevalence in this country, and I believe that very strongly in that kind of projection and the model we are using, is something around 1%. It means that I must be mitigating against that population. The first mitigation is that how do we proof our populations? As most offices have been locked down and are beginning to return to work, how do I ensure that my population that is going to be at work, either returning to work or already at work, how do they stay safe? And that brings me to what I call the gating process from a coronavirus perspective. The first thing is that there must be a method where you have people going into a work population, have them assessed. And this is where you must somehow find occupational medicine capacity, occupational health capacity to help you with proofing. You have to ask everybody, are you an at-risk individual? Do you have a vulnerability? Are you above 55? These days it's now been revised down to 50. As you have seen with the NCC data that came out 2 days ago, that 60% of all the deaths we have in Nigeria from coronavirus at the minimum are from people for 50 years and above. So they've revised the N number down to 50 from 60. So are you 50 and above? And this is not a form of discrimination against our very senior citizens, but it's a fact of life. Do you have an underlying condition? Diabetes, the common ones in Nigeria. Hypertension with complications. Do you have an underlying condition?
Hello, Doc. Can you share your slide with us? Can you share your slide?
I was trying to. It's not sharing. So I have to send it to you.
Okay.
I have to send it to you after. I'm trying, and it's not just a share. It's not sharing.
You can share. You can.
But I have tried. I have to share. It's okay. It's okay. I will speak to it, and I will share. I will send you the slides.
Oh, okay, that's all right. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Because I tried before, and it didn't seem that, so it's sharing my screen instead. Yeah, if you don't mind terribly, I'll send it to you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
All right. I'm gonna wrap up very soon. Okay. So the key thing there is that you must prove your population. And for me, it's what do I need to know about this population? Age is a factor. Underlying conditions are a factor. And I was listing them as the common ones in Nigeria are hypertension, uncontrolled or complicated, diabetes, either controlled or uncontrolled. It is if you have any condition you have that debilitates your immune system. So if you have cancer, if you are taking immune depressing medication, maybe long-term steroids, anti-cancer medication, or anything for autoimmune disorders, you most likely will have an immune compromised state. You need to be able to declare this to your organization and to your health and safety professional. Do you also have HIV? It's a crucial one because HIV coexisting with coronavirus is a bad mix. Do you have any other long-term complicated lung conditions? If you have chronic obstructive respiratory disorders, pulmonary disorders, if you have acute chronic bronchitis, that's often complicated. If you have had previous tuberculosis or pulmonary tuberculosis, if you have had any severe lung infection that's left you with scarring, if you are a bad asthmatic, these are things that your HSE professional needs to know. Not because you're not going to be at the work site, but because you need to be an individual that's profiled as high risk. And therefore, the mitigations around you may be slightly stricter than those around the regular population. And then when you're going to site, there has to be some system where there is continuing monitoring from your occupational health professional. And what that means is there must be a system where people are looking at you at day 0 and saying, hey, this is how you are today. If you have X, Y, or Z symptoms, if you have loss of taste, loss of smell, a fever, a cough, a sore throat, and things like that, can you please trigger this flag? Can you please call this number? Can you please speak to this person, this OH professional? Not because you want to, because you need to do anything drastic, but because people need to know. Because if you have on his own. That's his own network.
Hello, Doc. Hello, Dr. Ntia. Hello. Hello.
All right. I think you need to unmute me. I was muted. I was muted by the host.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
No problem. No problem. No, this is the reality of our tomorrow. Okay. So I'm saying that every plan you make now has to have a stronger coronavirus mitigation layer. And that starts from proofing your population. It also goes into how you design the workplace. Physical and social distancing is one of the time-honored means to limit spread in whatever population you're dealing with. So in the design of the workplace, the spacing has become even more crucial than ever before. The choice, the decision to say this work must go on, the reason to say, can I eliminate any part of my process has become even more relevant than before. So if there's any piece of work that is superfluous or redundant, weed it out. If there's any piece of work you can take away from the general population and say, you can do this part in a particular area, you can relocate that piece of work, it has become even more crucial now to do that kind of mitigation. So if you follow the hierarchy of controls, you can actually see opportunities where you can help mitigate a possible spread of coronavirus infection at your work site. And if you come all the way down to PPE, It must be that if you have a large number of people who have to work in close contact with each other, that you have to have, at the very minimum, these folks have to have a cloth mask on even when they're at the work site. And the principle of the cloth mask is that if everybody wears it, then it's protective. Because it protects you, it protects the person you're interacting with from yourself. So you are protecting him from you by preventing your droplets from going across to him unabated. So these are the kind of things you must think through. I'm trying to keep it very, very basic. So because I know that there's a diverse group of professionals on the call who are handling either low, medium, small and medium scale level industries, to people who are handling multinationals and IOCs. So, but for everybody, the principle is the same. Proof population, organize the office to give myself the maximum opportunity to reduce spread. Proof the population by putting in elimination of work that is redundant. People that don't need to be in the office shouldn't be in the office. Isolate work that can be taken aside into open areas, and then go on and do PPE and the very basic, a cloth mask for people who have to be in close confines. And then you have to have a period of people going out of work and coming back into work. If you work, if it's a site, if you're an operational camp, you may say, am I extending my rotation? Like DPRO now has said, minimum 28 days. So if you are working, you're working for 28 days straight to minimize the ingress and egress of personnel going back and forth. Many people in the energy industry have instituted access lockdown. They no longer allow unfettered access to sites. If you're going to site, you have to have a stricter permit control for people to access site and to do particular pieces of work and regret anything that's superfluous. The last point I want to make around this is that anything you can do online, like the ISPON meeting we're having now. Yeah, if it was last year, Nnamdi would have said, no, everybody come to Owerri and let us gather in a hotel.
Yes.
But today, we are forced to be creative, and this is the new normal. So almost the most important thing any worker needs to have in the skilled worker environment is good internet. It has become more crucial than ever before, no matter how manual your work is. Whatever you can do online, do online. I just participated in an international audit last week, online. We're auditing a refinery in Europe, and I was an audit member, and it was online. So that is our reality. My last words around it is that this pandemic will not go away soon. I am currently writing a plan for 2 to 5 years of coronavirus mitigation. And my organization is very clear that this is the kind of mindset we must go through, because all our models show that this will be with us around the world for at least 2 to 5 years. So I urge all of you to think about coronavirus mitigation in a medium term, at the very minimum, medium term view. Therefore, whatever you do as mitigation now, make sure it is sustainable. Make sure it is pragmatic. Make sure it is practical. You cannot lock your office perpetually, because you cannot lock your office for 2 years. You go out of business. But you ask yourself that if I'm going to be dealing with this virus for 2 years and I don't want an outbreak in my location, what do I need to do that I can sustain for 2 years? For 2 years. That's the minimum view you must take. So to all the risk managers around this call, I urge you to go back and put your thinking caps on, look at your population. As you do all your hazard and HSC cases, you must add the layer of the coronavirus pandemic and its mitigation. And you must layer that mitigation for at least 2 years. Make it simple, pragmatic, based on science, and sustainable. On this point, I yield the floor back to Nnamdi. Thank you very much for having me, and it was a pleasure spending time with Suffolk. Back to you, Nnamdi. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Doc. Thank you very much. That's very wonderful. Hearing directly from the expert's mouth, I appreciate. Please let us all appreciate Dr. Ntia for a powerful presentation he has done. Dr. Ntia, thank you very much. Please sit back, because our people are eager to ask more questions from you so that they learn deeper and better. Thank you very much. We appreciate you, Dr. Ntia. Next presenter, Doctor, you can bring the radio, any of them, any of it. Hello? Dr. Nadede. Hello?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear
Dr.
me?
Nadede, yeah, you are on now. Please talk to our people. Please share your presentation. Please,
Okay.
please share with our people. Let them see and also hear what you are presenting. Thank you very much.
Yeah, from this side, seeing a message that the host disabled participants screen sharing. So just give me the permission to share from your end.
Okay, go ahead and share. Go on.
Okay.
Go on.
Can you see my screen now?
I am seeing you, yes.
Okay,
Go ahead.
thank you.
You are
Yeah.
on.
Well, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak on this contemporary issue. I'm Dr. Nadede Kasraj. My profile has been read already, and the first speaker has actually given us the epidemiological view of it. And I'm here to speak on this topic based on BBS, that behavioral safety issues, based on that perspective. Okay, we all know what occupational injury and health is all about. When we talk about CODIV, another thing that comes to mind is health, workers' health, and public health. So according to ISO 45001 and OSHA 18001, both define injury and ill health as adverse effect on the physical, mental, and cognitive condition of the person, including workers. We could say the three areas of emphasis: physical, mental, and cognitive. So we are looking at three aspects here that constitute a condition of a healthy person. So that graphically we can see here the relationship between CODIV and then injuries, occupational injuries. Right, COVID-19 pandemic has been characterized with isolation. People are isolated before they could actually begin feel to go to work. Also, lockdowns here and there, we have witnessed that home and abroad. Also characterized with remote working, increased workload, loss of work. Some people have lost their work and still losing it on a daily basis. Loss of loved ones, and then sedentary lifestyle. So these conditions presented by COVID-19 actually could lead to physical health disorders like metabolic disorders, cardiovascular diseases, and physical injuries. Also, there are mental health issues, stress, anxieties, and depression. And also, cognitive-wise, it could lead to what? Isolation could lead to confusion, lockdown, remote working. They have been associated with cognitive health problems like loss of motor coordination, loss of long-term injury, loss of impaired judgment, confusion. And then you can see the arrow linking mental health and cognitive health, meaning that they are somehow interrelated. So these are the outcomes of what? COVID-19 pandemic from health perspective. So also you can see that what these three conditions now act as mediators between COVID-19 pandemic and human error. The three conditions are mental health, physical health, cognitive health, could lead to what? Human error. Human error, which is precursor of injuries, accident, fatalities, and ill health in the workplace. In that what anyone that is not physically healthy, mentally and cognitive healthy could actually what? It could lead to error in terms of sleep and what? Memory lapses. The individual in the workplace could commit rule-based mistakes and knowledge-based mistakes, and any of these could actually lead to injuries, accidents, fatalities, and ill health. Statistically, the scale of the problem is already there, Approximately before this pandemic issue, it had been found that over 300 million people suffer from depression. Approximately 800,000 people also died as a result of suicide. And holistically, 13% of global population, around 971 million, suffer some kind of mental disorder. These statistics were before COVID. But then now we have COVID with the associated characteristics of isolation, lockdown, increased workload, loved ones associated with this. We definitely increase these existing conditions, medical conditions, physical, mental, cognitive health. We may probably see an upsurge in number of people or workers suffering or experiencing these health issues as they return to work. Therefore, HSE professionals need to manage this, proactively recognize this problem as people are gradually coming back to work. And that is why we are here. Now, basically, already in existence in the field of health and safety, there are basically two broad approaches to managing occupational health issues. One is through BBS, behavioral-based safety, which I'm looking at from that perspective. The other aspect is also cultural change approach, which is the perspective promoted by Occupational Health and Safety 5001 and 18001. And when we talk about BBS, what are we talking about? It is simply the application of psychological theory of behaviorism to change specific safety-related behaviors that are exhibited by mainly accident-prone frontline workers or workers we regard as being a sharp end of the work. These are the workers that would actually trigger the accident, fatalities, and then suffer it or make the process to be in danger. On the other side, the cultural change approach popularized in our HSE management systems, which organizations use worldwide, in general, is a set of interrelated elements of organization to establish policies, objectives, and processes to achieve them. So this actually raw parallel. These are approaches to managing safety, right? Organizations actually adopt one and then leave the other. But then there is this suggestion that we could derive the synergies inherent in them and make them a sort of multiplicative by enshrining BBS into HSE management system, because our contemporary operating HSE management system, which many organizations use, is not behavioral-based compliant. Now, these are the features of both systems. BBS is a top-down approach to safety management, and it's somehow workers-centric. It's also in features. Another feature is identification of specific risky procedure. Goal and objective setting, performance is measured, feedback on performance from workers also expected in order to see whether there is continual improvement. For the management system approach, it's a top-down approach to managing safety, in which hazard and risk identification is fundamentals. The other features that apply to BBS also apply to management system. Now, also, we look at worker as a whole, right? Now, what is prevalent in organization is to regard worker as someone that comes to work with his head and with his hands. Most of our procedures are channeled on this. But one component of a worker that is missing in even an international health and safety management standard is that of recognizing a worker as someone that has a heart, that has a mind, that must work together with the head and hand in order to follow procedure, in order to follow controls in workplace, in order to make a workplace safer. So how do we engage a work fully in work? That worker that is carrying one operation, the operator there, the nurse at the surgery theater, the doctor that is there. First of all, he would like to engage the head. So the head engages what? The mind, and then the mind engages the hand. Here you could see the heart or the mind acting as a mediator between the head and hand. For the hand to work effectively, the mind must be at the work. But what we see is that what this thing is lacking, considering the heart or mind as an individual in our procedures, is actually lacking, in which management, who are precursors of procedures, sometimes forget that the worker there has mind. He might have some psychological problems that would actually disturbing him, that will make him to slip in memory, to forget items, and then that would finally lead to hazard. And this other slide diagrammatically shows up what we are talking about. Behavioral safety system engages the head and also heart and mind. The safety management system actually engages the hand, but does not fully engage the head. Heart engagement is virtually lacking in that place, and this is depicted in this diagram with a slight arrow. So as we are coming back from this CODIF and going back to offices, this actually buttresses the fact that we need to look at our procedures to see that whether the hearts of workers are going to be engaged, because as this during this CODIF period, you need to see they have passed through isolations, they have passed through lockdown, they have experienced lost ones. So emotional problem is there, cognitive problems is there, then we have to deal much more with the issues of mind, which HSC professionals need to prepare for that. Now, what are the BBS solutions, behavioral safety solutions, to manage occupational health and safety, which we should do as we return to work? We need to plan to identify and address risks associated with physical health issues, mental health issues, and cognitive health issues. And one area we need to focus is what? Mindfulness training. Because it's mindfulness training that helps us to take care of cognitive issues. But our health and safety management system actually does not actually bring this into perspective. It talks about training of the worker, maybe in the work, training to understand HSC policies, but is actually blank on issue of mindfulness of workers towards what they are doing. That is why we are hearing issues of, this worker has been trained in his job, this worker knows how to do it, but then he was involved in an accident. Why? Perhaps because his mind was not there. Right? We have to advocate for this to be inculcated into our health and safety management system as we come back from this CODIF in order to make us to be prepared. And some of the methods of training mind is guided meditation, breath controls, body scans, self-routine scan, examining routine. These are systems of mindfulness training. Apart from that, other aspects of physical health could also be taken care of by having a sort of employee assistance program. You have flexi time where people could actually have a control of their job because of existing health issues. Many people might have emotional problem and would at least try to take care of their job. So after doing that, we need to do check what we have implemented, monitor behavioral safety trained workers, measure the effectiveness of the trained work in the BBS interventions we've implemented, evaluate the objective of BBS training we have made, and also issue management reports. So after that, we act on what you have checked, result, and then evaluate whether it is in line with the objective we have set, and then we plan for new cycle. Remember, issue of BBS solution to managing occupational health and safety is a continual improvement program. Then the cycle restarts. So in conclusion, we need to have a holistic approach to managing occupational health and safety issues, right? Whether we are using your organization is adopting behavioral-based safety issue, a solution, or occupational health and safety management system. Both of them have their separate benefits, but at this time, that most of the issues we are going to experience as people come back to work is more of cognitive and emotionally related. We have to lay more emphasis on BBS, behavioral safety solutions to that. But then, at a long run, more synergy would be derived by making sure that what behavioral safety solutions are enshrined in our already existing occupational health and safety management system. We need to remember that whatever management system your organization is having now, even whether it is based on ISO 45000 or Z10 or Occupational Health and Safety Assessment Series, it is presently not human performance compliant. It only considers the heads of the workers and their hands, but does not consider the mind. But for we to have a holistic approach to managing occupational health and safety issues, the mind aspect of it must be taken into consideration, because mind acts as a mediator between head and hand. So adopting a hybrid SMS safety management system, where behavioral-based safety is enshrined in occupational safety management system, would make an organization to be more resilient toward low-frequent but high-impact emergent risk like COVID-19, which we are actually seeing. So as we prepare to go back to work as occupational health and safety professional, right, we have to act as advocates in our companies to make sure that what procedures are changed to actually factor in the fact that a worker that is up there doing some electrical work, or an operator that is there in the plant, has a mind, has emotional issues which might have been complicated by this CODIV, and this needs to be taken into consideration. Thank you very much for granting me your audience. Here comes the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Hello. Dr. Nadede, thank you very much. Thank you for your wonderful and powerful presentation. I have no doubt in my mind that as I've enjoyed it, everybody in this platform has enjoyed it. We appreciate you. We thank you for your time. We thank you for the effort. We thank you for the lectures. We have learned new things from your presentation. Please sit back for some questions and some comments that may be made by our people in due course. Thank you very much. Everybody appreciate Dr. Nadede. Thank you very much. We'll be inviting our third presenter, Engineer Emeka Elebunam, to come on board to present his paper. Emeka, you are welcome on board. Hello? Emeka, are you there?
Yes, yes, I can hear you now. Thank you so much, Mr. President.
Let's have you. Let's have you.
Thank you.
Thank you so welcome. Much. You can please do us a favor by showing us your slides, just like Dr. Nadede has done.
So I can see he says that I can't start my. Okay, so that's fine. You have opened it up. That's fine.
Yeah, for sure.
Because the video was locked out, so it's fine.
We cannot make that mistake.
Okay, it's still locked again. So can you unlock it again, please? The video.
Okay, we're doing that.
Okay. Okay, I think it's fine. I think it's fine now. Yes, I think it's fine now. So let's.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay, so let me just try to share the screen.
Please show us.
Then we can get going. Okay, just to check, I just want to check if everyone can see the screen. Mr. President, can you confirm you can see the screen so I can go on?
I'm seeing it clear. Go ahead.
Okay, very well. All right, so thank you so much, Mr. President and my colleagues from everywhere you have logged on. It's really nice to be speaking to you today. I also like to also thank Dr. Nsikak and Dr. Nnadede for the very insightful presentation that has preceded mine. So thank you so much. So today we are looking at the intrigues and realities of COVID-19 and all the challenges it poses. And while I say new challenges, I also want to add new opportunities because as a risk manager, I also always look at risk as uncertainties, and within uncertainties, we also have some, positive things we can also try to harness, and that's what makes us who we are. And if you listen to Dr. Nnadede and Dr. Nsikak, they actually, laid credence to the fact that there are certain things we can gain, even from now. Things like, offloading so much of the baggages we have while we work right now. Okay, so I won't waste time on this one. Mr. President has kindly read our profile, but that is it. There you still get the slide as well, so you can know ourselves very, very well. Okay, so the way I just want to start is to, walk us back again, to the intrigues and realities as the topic. This thing started just like a joke, and around November, I think I was in the United States, and we're hearing, some people are dying in China, and something is happening in China. And honestly speaking, where I was in, I think it was in New York or Houston, people were actually laughing, as if to say this has come upon China and it's not going to come upon anybody. So that is about the origin and the bearer. So the intrigue about the origin of COVID-19, is it China, is it Europe, is it the Americas, and so on and so forth. And then who is actually the bearer? Is it some bats or some snakes or some monstrous-looking animals like the panolin and so on and so forth? And then we went through the whole issue about the 666 vaccine theory. Okay, this is 666 and so on and so forth. And then all of a sudden, we went also through the wave of the 5G connection and the trade war between United States and China. And then after that, we now came to the point where we started asking ourselves, is this really a novel virus or just a common flu? Some of us remember that, the most powerful man in the world, President Trump, went for a campaign and said, guys, don't worry. This is going to go away in the next 1 or 2 weeks. It's just a common flu. It's going to go away very soon. Let's not worry about it. Now, why am I trying to remind us of all these intrigues? It's actually trying to say that as risk managers, we need to know how we take things when they appear, especially when we don't know what they are. Okay, so whatever we do not have an idea about and whatever we do not know from beginning, it is better not to take it casual, but as a matter of fact, take it a bit serious until you can prove that your doubt is actually real. But if you watch at these intrigues, they're actually part of what led us to today because of the doubts and the uncertainties they created. People dilly-dallied and so on and so forth. And then we now got to where we are today. And where are we today? We are in the era of the realities. Okay? I decided to save us with a lot of slides trying to show the spread and the statistics and so on and so forth. Because we all are inundated with all these statistics every day on our televisions, on our phones, through WhatsApp and so on and so forth. But you see, the reality is painted when we think about how it is spreading. Just from China in November to now to the nooks and crannies of the world, we are talking about COVID, even in the villages. Villagers who do not even understand what COVID means, how to pronounce it, they are running away from COVID right now. Now, the statistics is staggering right now. Okay, I don't even want to start talking about the numbers. We all know it. Now, the world is on a chase for cure and vaccine, just within a few months of between November and today. And the socioeconomic impact is the one that is ravaging everybody in the world right now. There is no soul in the world now that will say that there's no social or economic impact COVID has had on me. Even if you fall among the people who are making good money out of COVID, there is some social impact you are suffering. So it's all the world. And then we bring about the political angle. All right? We all know what is happening in the US as a matter of fact, and in every part of the world again. And unfortunately, we're also in a realistic period where we now talk about the curves and the waves, which is what I call the first coming and the second coming. If you have looked at the graph from the United States lately, you will just be very, very, very worried, because what we have seen is that a second wave is just sweeping through. Yes, it is in some states. Even in this country, in Nigeria, we see that the statistics is going very high. It looks like you see some local governments. Yes, but the truth is that the people in the local governments do not have chains on their legs. They do not have chains in their cars and so on and so forth. So before you know it, we have the whole thing hitting up again. So this, for me, is just trying to reminisce on the intrigues and realities of COVID-19. Why do I deem it important? I deem it important because as risk managers, we need to keep thinking about where we are coming from. And therefore, when we are trying to make decisions, we are very, very well guided. For instance, some people who are rushing to open up systems and so on and so forth, like what is happening in the US right now, seem to have forgotten so easily and so quickly, these intrigues and the realities we're facing. Okay, because one of the reasons we know today that in some countries where COVID spreads so fast, why it spreads so in such a way is because the leadership in such countries or in some states or in those localities actually we are deliberating or feeling that, well, there may be a macho angle to this. It may go away just like that. Let's just keep doing what we are doing. But so surprisingly, some of us are rushing back to where we were, and what we are seeing is the kind of grasp we are seeing now from the United States, even from Nigeria, as a matter of fact. It is true that statistically, in terms of figure, that the numbers do not match. But when you look at the behavioral pattern, you see that we are still facing the same kind of challenge we face. So, thoughts that comes again, because at the end of the day, after facing the intrigues and the realities, we have to come back as professionals again and ask ourselves some questions. So what do we do? That is the point, because life keeps going on. So I keep thinking in my mind these thoughts. Was COVID-19 unforeseen, or could it have been foreseen? All right. So everywhere in the world, when we talk about this today, people keep saying, and it is true, by the way, it's not that I'm doubting it. However, I'm going to provide some further thoughts about it. This was unforeseen. We have never known about this kind of a thing before. Nobody saw it coming, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I keep quiet. Sometimes when I think as a HAC professional, I say, well, is that really true? And we can discuss that as we move on right now. Now, any lesson from the past? I was so pleased when Dr. Sikak was making reference to Ebola, which means we actually have some things. And I mean, as a professional, he knows the difference between Ebola and COVID. So I don't even want to delve into that aspect because that's not my turf. However, the point is this: Ebola was a virus, COVID is a virus, measles is a virus, Lassa fever virus, and so on and so forth. Some of the things we were doing to protect ourselves against Lassa, against Ebola, against this and that, which of those structures are still there today? Now, if some of those structures are still there today, that's fine. But if they are not there today, what happened to them? And then I now start thinking, so all this, hustle and bustle and panicky and so on and jitteriness we are doing right now means that if, for instance, COVID goes away in the next 1, 2, 3, 4 months, before you know it, in the next 1 year or 6 months, we'll now forget about all these frenzies that we are going through right now. Now, as HAC professionals, as business professionals, what does it really mean to us? Okay. Now, what is unique about COVID-19? We ask. Well, we're going to talk about that. Now, will it disappear very soon? Dr. Sikak actually laid a thought about that. He said it will not go away. I also think it won't go away, But the point is that it doesn't go away. So what? We need to do something about Can we ever go back to the old ways? I pray that we don't ever go back to the old ways. Yes, some old ways should come back. But I can actually say that as a risk manager, there are some gains we have had even from the realities we face now that I terribly wish that we do not go back to. And what are those things? We can talk about them as we move on. Now, the question is, how should organizations therefore increase their capabilities to face the new challenges and also harness the opportunities effectively? So these are the thoughts that always go on in my mind. And in all the forum, or in all the fora I have been part of since this pandemic, these are still the same thoughts that I share all the time, and they keep increasing in number anyway. Like Dr. Sikak said, what you said yesterday, in the next 2 days, as something they get sick and you think you have known it all, you don't ever know it. But the main thing here is what Dr. Nadede said, and I really agree with that, and that is what Dr. Sikak said as well. All of us believe, and we know that COVID-19 is actually, I don't want to say just, but it's just another hazard. This is just another hazard. We know that a hazard is a condition or whatever has the potential to cause harm to us, whether it is loss or injury or whatsoever. That is a hazard. That is what COVID-19 is doing to us today. Now, we know there are two major categories of hazards, health hazards and safety hazards. Today, we're talking about a health hazard. Now, as HAC professionals, a hazard is a hazard. That is the point. Risk is risk. That is the point. This is the time we therefore need to start going. I was pleased again when Dr. Sikak said that, he's writing a 5-year plan. That is very, very, very good. And that is the kind of practice I say everywhere I go. Now, we need to have a robust plan that will make us manage COVID. Because some of us believe it's not going to go away. Malaria has never gone away. Lassa fever has not gone away, and so on and so forth. But we live, all right? I know while in Shell that, for instance, when somebody wants to travel from Europe or anywhere to come into the tropics like Nigeria to come and work, the stringent process of transiting from Europe to Nigeria because of malaria is so strict that you trigger it actually like 2 or 3 months even before you arrive the tropic, especially Nigeria. Okay, that's what we do for malaria. That is the kind of mentality we have to start thinking about COVID, and then be able to reduce the frenzy that we have. Now, and now think about it. What do we need to do? Do we have to panic and walk away, or do we do something? So when I look at the management system again, and Dr. Nadede talked about the management system, from the BBS point of view, from a professional management system point of view, and I was so pleased that he ended up advising that we have a hybrid. Totally subscribe to that. At the end of the day, when you get to a hybrid, it still all dovetails into the major elements of the HAC management system. So I say that the management system actually has it sorted. It has provided us a framework, and I picked this one from the Health and Safety Guide 65 of the HAC, the United Kingdom. Okay, so we have everything we need to do there. As HAC managers, we have policy. We ensure that we have a policy that shows how we manage health hazards. Now, that policy can only therefore now be revised, all right, and be updated if we have seen anything different from what we're seeing before from the other viruses. Otherwise, it is now time to strengthen that policy and chase it. Now, I talk about organization. What kind of organization do we have managing HAC for us? Sometimes HAC is taken as a non-important organization until when things like this happen. But where I want to talk about so much is on planning and implementation. Planning and implementation. Dr. Sikak made a very, very good point. I'm writing a 5-year plan. Everywhere I go, I say to those concrete plans using methodologies that work, methodologies that put everything in proper perspective, that make us see all the threats. We already know what the hazard is. The hazard is there, that is COVID virus. The top event is there. The top event is infection by COVID-19 virus on a human being. But the point is that it doesn't just infect. Something causes it to infect us. Those things are the threats. Okay, so we need to very, very carefully gather professionals and make sure that we, considering the peculiarities of our own environment. Now, I say it very clearly, there is no one size that fits all in fighting any hazard, by the way, especially something like a health hazard. So within the realities and peculiarities of our own environment, we need to be able to come back and say, we know the virus, we know the top event. The question is, what are the threats in my own area? Threats are not all the same. Some of us work in the oil and gas industry, where things can easily be put up. Most of us don't have the privilege to be working in the oil and gas industry. So the ease by which we put up some barriers to guard against some threats might be different. But it's important that we think about that, given the peculiarities of our own situation. So when we identify all those threats, okay, given our own situation, we need to start providing barriers for them. Barriers include a lot of things that WHO, NCDC, guys like Dr. Sikak and so on and so forth have been advising us about, social distancing, wash your hand, do this and that and that and that. But it also goes beyond that, by the way. Okay. So that is why I say that HAC system have not sorted out. What are the critical focus areas we need to be worrying about in this, managing this pandemic? Number one is the workplace. We need to think about it. It has changed. Definitely, it has changed for good. But you see, sometimes when I also think about the workplace, and I'm talking about the positive aspect of what we're saying, when I go around some facilities in the country and even elsewhere, I see that some facilities have converted their, even the corridor to desk stations and so on and so forth, overcrowdedness and so on and so forth. Probably it is time for us now to start thinking about, come on, we need space. Okay. Yes, we need space. And then COVID-19, our workspace too, because it's pushing us back to where we should have been. And now we must take the wheel, right? The leadership wheel to now go back to spacing up our workplace perfectly and making sure that we create a very safe environment that is good for people to work. What is it going to cost? It's going to cost the fact that so many people will not have workspace to work. That is fine. That introduces us to what is happening right now, working from home. Okay, and why do I say that we also look at opportunities? When we work from home, yes, the company saves some money. We prevent a lot of other risks. People commute less. People don't have to be on the road all the time, traveling here and there and so on and so forth. So we can still accomplish what we have to do, the way we have to do it. All we need to do is to try as much as possible to therefore put in place the process of what I call management by objective. It is not a situation where you want everybody, to come and congregate in one place called a workplace. There are certain people who can deliver their work from wherever they are. Remote working becomes the norm. And if we find out that the statistics of road accidents, so on and so forth, will actually go down eventually when we institute certain things like working from home, remote working, and so on and so forth. Now, what are we going to look at again? We will look at access. Dr. Sikak has mentioned things like, he talked about gates, I think it's access control and things like that. Yeah. How do people access the workplace? We have ways of measuring temperatures and asking them questions about their health conditions, and so on and so forth. There's so many. I think I have some recommended practices I'm going to share with you as well. Now, the next one is the workforce, very important, and that is actually the major part of Dr. Nadebe's presentation, which has to do with, we call it the hearts and minds. We need to watch the hearts and minds of people. You do not think that the moment you say, hey, everybody come back to work, yes, we're going to have various reactions. There are people who are itching to go back to work because naturally in Nigeria, we are not used to sitting down workplace. We want to wake up every morning, get out somewhere that is called work, and then come back, not knowing that you can actually do the same work from where you are. But there are also people who you call to come back to work. They say, no way, I'm not coming back. Okay, and even if they come back, they're not going to be the same human beings. The guys that support Chelsea United, you remember that N'Golo Kante told Frank Lampard very clearly that the money is sweet. Chelsea is a great club, but however, my family is more important. I am not coming back to work. Okay, so we need to be able to watch people like that. And that, like Dr. David said, is about the hearts and minds. We need to think about the mental stability of people who are coming back to work. Now, if we want people to really, really come back to work, we have to provide those working environments I've talked about, but we have to provide also psychosocial support. How do we make sure that they are stable in coming back to work, right? So that is the kind of thing and we also need to ask ourselves, who has to come back to work? It is getting more intriguing. Dr. Sikak actually mentioned it very well. We have lowered the age age bracket. We say anybody from age 50. That's it. And then I laughed when I heard that. Because the point is actually that the major part of the workforce, those who are experienced and know what they are doing, fall within that category. But thank God we can do work from home and so on and so forth. Because it's a reality that most of the people who are dying from COVID-19 actually are within that bracket. So what it therefore means is that the workplace will now be staffed of the kind of people that will normally have congregated there to do work. But work must go on. And then the third thing I want to talk about is the work process. So in work process, it becomes easier. And in some aspect of it, is actually a good thing. All right? Because again, I keep saying it as a risk manager, I look at the effects, both positive and negative. When we talk about the work process right now, I think somebody mentioned it, a lean process. Some of us know the Sigma system, the lean process. If you introduce lean process in your system, you find out how much that you can actually save that you wouldn't have even known you can save before now. All right? So it's time for us to introduce lean process and discover that certain things we do, we don't actually need to do. And then certain handlings we do handle. We don't really need to handle those things. Because when we go back to work right now, remember I said in the oil and gas industry, we are techie, right? We are very techie. We have computers, we have e-systems and so on. But let's not be deceived that everybody is not working on the oil and gas industry. There are people who still believe in carrying books, carrying files around. And we know that handling is one of the ways that COVID gets spread. So we must therefore think about how we handle documents, how we handle equipment, how we handle every item now. Why can't we use electronic system as the major part of handling, of transmitting documents right now? Therefore, the handling process will reduce. It becomes an opportunity now for us to say, look, as professionals, we got to make that happen. Right? Then we talk about segregation of work. Think of, for instance, you are running a refinery and you want to do what we call shutdown. Just think of a normal scenario. It normally takes about 600 to 1,000 people on daily basis doing shutdown work. And we know that COVID thrives in such an environment. So we now need to think about that. How do we carry out such job in order not to congregate a lot of people together at the same time? So we can segregate the jobs. We don't have to do everything at the same time anymore the way we want. When we want to finish shutdown within the next 30 days and so on and so forth, we don't have to do that anymore. We can segregate the work. Do this part this week, do the other part this week, so we can batch people in and out. We can also decentralize things, do some of the work in contractors' quarters. So that brings me to outsourcing. Outsourcing becomes a major way to work right now. So some of the works you can decentralize and send it to contractors, but as well you have only a small group number of people doing the work. Otherwise, you get everybody into the facility and then you run into the risk we are trying to prevent right now. So these are some of the things we are talking about. In NNPC, in DPR, and so on and so forth, they are already doing what we call batching of workforce. Okay, some people call it rotation. Some people call it shift work. It doesn't matter. What it means is that you don't bring everybody at the same time to come and work. So you say, this group come this time, and so on and so forth. This can actually continue post-COVID because it's actually a very good way to save money, save stress, and also keep us safe. Right. So this is basically the critical focal areas I think we need to, and it's not exhaustive by the way, but we're working within time. So talking about the HSE management system, I go back to what I was trying to talk about. If we have to live and survive in the COVID era and even beyond that, what we need to try as much as possible to do is to improve and strengthen our HSE management system. And it doesn't matter whether we're talking about the behavioral aspect, we're talking about the system aspect, we're talking about the whatever occupational and so on and so forth. It doesn't matter. What matters is that each and every one of them revolves around what you see I have here. We need to plan critically what we do. And when we are planning, we use the right resources, we use expertise, gather experts together. It is not right to, I can't sit here, for instance, I say, well, this is what we need to do this, do this, do this, do this. I always like to say, no, that's not the best way to do that. Go to your own place, sit down, gather people together, and address the peculiarities of your own situation. Then when you have planned that, let's start doing what we say we are going to do. All right? Yes, some plans lie on the shelf. I've seen rolling plans here and there. We write plans and so on and so forth. There were a lot of plans written during Ebola. That is the truth. Some of them, immediately after Ebola, nobody ever read them again. Okay? And then we keep monitoring and learning and improving. That's basically, I mean, all the other aspects of it are all their policy planning, risk management, improving. We are HSE professionals, we know the POPMA and so on and so forth. This is not the time to start, using all those buzzwords. This is time for us to what we really need to do to strengthen the HSE management system. And when we're talking about strengthening HSE management system, where does it start? It starts from the leadership. So I have the essentials here. What is leadership? We all know what it is. You see the gentlemen I have here. You decide how you want to lead. But the point is that whichever one you decide actually makes an impact. There is one that is an impact reducing the COVID spread, and another one that is going to allow the COVID to spread. I leave you to make a judgment between Mr. Ping and Mr. Trump. Okay, so I'm not saying anything, but I know that this picture you have here. So this is the time that calls for strong and purposeful leadership, a leadership that is visible and felt, and is also modeling the organizational behavior. All right? It is not a time to just say, blow grammars and leave it there, because that's what used to happen. So it's an opportunity for us to strengthen our management system. We all know that in the elements of the management system, HSE management system, the first one is leadership commitment. That commitment is all the things I'm talking about. It has to be strong, it has to be purposeful, it has to be visible, it has to be felt. And the leader must be modeling the behavior we expect. That is what is important. What other thing do I consider important? The risk management process. Now, this was not done by me. I lifted it up from the international SOS, but we all know about the Swiss cheese model. This is actually the best way to, when I keep saying, gather professionals together and ask a question. What do we have? Another hazard. What are the peculiarities? What do we need to do about that? So some people have actually sat down to take the COVID thing through a Swiss cheese model. And that is the best way to actually put it together. So that even when you are doing, whether it's BBS or whatever you're doing, you know exactly where you want to pay attention. This is doing it very practically right now and being concise about what you do. So for those of us who don't understand the Swiss cheese model, maybe in your spare time, just again, go to click on Swiss cheese model and hear what Professor Reason, said about incident causal, how we must put barriers in the causal part of incidents. However, we also know that barriers also have holes. So they are weak, sometimes they are not present. Therefore, we need to use the layer of protection analogy to be able to put solid barriers, ones that will not fail at the same time, so that we don't have common mode failure, and then be able to protect ourselves against COVID infestation. Now, eventually, if that happens, that is why you see on my slide, the red thing. The red thing that looks like Apple you have there is, okay, if everything we have done has failed, what are those things? We're talking about awareness, making people know that COVID-19 is not about 5G, it's not about 666, it's not about China, it's not about US, it's about a disease that is killing people, and we need to do something about that. That is about awareness. So the awareness has a lot of things to do there. Again, like I said, the awareness has to be tailored to the peculiarities of your own situation. All right, then you go to the next thing, which is vaccine. We don't have a vaccine yet, so we forget about vaccine for now, but we are chasing it. We go to social distancing, segregation. In the hierarchy of management, what we call the engineering, isolation, and so on and so forth. We all know that social distancing, hierarchy of controls. That's what I'm trying to talk about. Social distancing is already prescribed in the hierarchy of controls. It's called isolation. Isolate yourself from where the thing is going to touch you. So as HSE professionals, it shouldn't be something new for us. It only means that, okay, in Nigeria, we do 2 meters. In UK, they do 1 meter. In United States, they do, it doesn't, so just prescribe your own and move on with it. So HSE management system, whether we are going to be using the Swiss cheese model, we're going to use the BBS, we're going to use occupational health, it doesn't matter. The point is that we have an opportunity to use a system to see what we're going to do. And then before we now go to testing and clinical management and emergency response, you will get this slide anyway to remind yourself about that, but you can also check it out yourself. It also has to do with from the layer of protection, you go to the bow tie, and let me not waste your time about bow tie. You see the same thing. We know what the hazard is. We know what the top event is. The question is, what are the threats and what are the barriers? I think I've talked about it already before. So these are ways that you can come down and sit professionally, so that when you are drafting a plan, you draft a plan that makes sense, that have everything actually fused together. and we're getting the kind of result we want to get. Now, the other good important area to drive is compliance, encouragement, and consequence management. You know, one of the things that has actually killed a lot of people in the COVID era is what has been killing frontline workers. What is it? PPE. You and I know that we have been singing the story of PPE right from the age Adam as HSC professionals. So PPE becomes something we have to reinforce again. Hearts and minds about PPE. Now, I talk about compliance encouragement. Yes, there are certain things you need to do to encourage compliance with PPE use. For instance, there was a time when I watched in Australia. We find out that people like funky things, okay? So what do you call it? A safety spec we normally wear will be one that looks like, very, very ugly. And then one vendor just came one day and brought a nice, sleeky, colored, safety spec that looks so well that people can use it for parties. And before you know it, everybody in the facility started wearing it and people were protected. So we now need to start thinking, what are the creative ways we can use to model compliance? The PPEs we wear, the coveralls we wear, we can sew some of them to make sure that people wear it and they feel great about it. So it doesn't mean that when we ask people to wear PPE, it will look as if you are actually taking them through punishment. That's before we now come into consequence management, which I think should be a matter of doing it to ensure that people actually comply, not to punish people. Lastly, for me, is get everyone. There is a program I run that talked about, please, you can increase your HSE workforce without employing anybody else. Yes, it is possible. How do you do that? Transform everyone in the workforce as a HSE officer. Gone are the days when we have HSE officers who wear helmets like policemen and go to police anybody. If you let people who work understand HSE and how it concerns to their work, and then they become HSE ambassadors. In that case, you don't have to do your work alone. You can only monitor, bring out new policies, bring out new procedures and give to them to work. So in that case, you have already increased your HSE workforce by 100%, but you didn't employ anybody. That is also one way to make sure that we work better. All right, now this is where the presentation formally ends, okay? But the following slides is what I have as recommended practices of what we can do when we are returning to work, okay? So I'm not going to waste your time too much reading them. I just have these, they're going to be in the slide. Some of the things we can do as ways to return to work safely, some basic requirements and recommended practices, healthy human interactions, safe work environment, worker safety, business operation I talked about, maximizing worker availability, and then some personal interventions as well. What do you have to do to your own self to keep safe? Because at the end of the day, it is the individual that matters, whether the organization does it or not. We as individuals need to tell ourselves the truth. Look, I am 55 years old, I don't need to go someplace. I don't need to go there, because if you go there, you're on your own. Some people, Naira Marley came to Abuja sometime last week or 2 weeks ago, and they said that a lot of people went to one of the parks to go and meet Naira Marley, right? In the era of COVID, when we were talking about social distancing and covering your nose, and then some boy flew from Lagos to Abuja and called you to come and contact COVID-19, and you went there. And I keep saying, when they say they arrested the facility managers, I say, well, thank God for them, but the guys that flocked there to go and see Naira Marley at the expense of their own health, what were they thinking? So personal responsibility is very, very important in everything we do, when we go to work, when we are at work, when we are at home, whatever we are doing. Okay? So we need a safe environment to work. That is my final thoughts. And I always say that a chain is always as strong as its weakest link. Remember that you may not have COVID, but the other person has it. So look after yourself and each other, and everyone will be safe at the end of the day. How do you treat yourself? Consider yourself that you have COVID-19 and you don't want to give it to your brother or your friend, so protect yourself. How do you treat everybody out there as that they have COVID-19? Don't let them give it to you. If we all adopt this type of mentality, then probably we will be helping ourselves and making work easy for people like Dr. Sika and every other professional that is out there doing a great job managing COVID-19. Thank you so much. Mr. President, sorry, I know I took a little bit of time, but there's something I want to say. The Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria, we know, always have a very, very great and wonderful conference every year, technical conference that we have. we are still looking forward to having a very nice conference this year. God permitting, this COVID-19 will fizzle away and we're going to have our conference. I want to use this opportunity to please bring it to the consciousness of everybody gathered here. This is a very wonderful gathering, 208 people, Mr. President, congratulations for that. So that's why I feel compelled to say what I want to say here. That conference needs to happen. Those of us who are professionals in this should be able to do everything we need to do, contribute our own quota, intellectual property, finance, whatever we have, to keep pushing the frontiers of HAC management. That's what is going to happen, hopefully, in November. And I want to use this opportunity to invite everybody here, not just to the conference. No, I'm not just inviting to the conference because it is a default position that you will be there. I'm inviting you to be able to play your part. Consider what you can contribute to the institute to be able to make that conference worthwhile. Please, it includes all types of resources, intellectual property, presentations, money, legwork, contacts, and so on and so forth.